Happy New Year! Hello, GRIO fam. You're watching The Hill with April Ryan, where we bring you the latest in politics every week. Let's begin right here in Washington, D.C., where I attended the Congressional Black Caucus's ceremonial swearing in for the members of the 118th Congress. During the event, 9 new members were sworn into office, including Representatives Maxwell Frost and Summer Lee. The CBC is now being led by Congressman Steve Horsford, who is replacing outgoing Chairwoman Joyce Beatty. I spoke with Horsford during Tuesday's event, and he told me that he plans to focus on helping Black Americans gain better access to jobs.
One of the major issues is always around jobs and the economy, but really tackling it from the standpoint of racial equity, how we have passed major bills from infrastructure to chips and science to climate change, but we need to make sure that those jobs are accessible to Black community, Black people who've been left out, to make sure that we're not overlooked, ignored, or dismissed in that process.
Staying right here in Washington, D.C., where the search to replace former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is creating discord within the Republican Party. Congressman Kevin McCarthy was nominated as the GOP's pick for Speaker of the House. However, he has struggled to gain support from the party members. Simply put, some Republicans don't believe he's the right man for the job. I recently spoke with New York Congressman Gregory Meeks, who said that although the Republican Party appears to be in disarray, the Democratic Party must remain focused.
Well, the fight continues. Number one, we never stop. We know that they have a 4-vote majority and they are in chaos themselves. So what we need to do is to make sure that we stay focused on voting rights, getting our folks registered to vote, but making sure that the systems, particularly in the states, is doing what we need them to do, so people know that with confidence that they can get out to vote and their vote will count, and not preventing them from the opportunity to vote. Preserving our democracy is important, to make sure that we can build upon the accomplishments that we did in 117.
To the White House, just down the street, where President Joe Biden announced last month that he intends to visit several African nations this year in order to bolster U.S.-Africa relations. This comes on the heels of the 2022 U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, where the Biden-Harris administration invited leaders from African nations to Washington, D.C., in an effort to strengthen economic ties between the U.S. and Africa. I recently spoke with Rosa Whitaker, the president of the Whitaker Group, who told me that some key factors were absent from this summit.
As much as I applaud, I applaud President Biden for it. What was missing from this summit was we should have had a readout of what were the results, specific results from the last summit. Were these pronouncements or did these commitments actually take place? Because we heard the announcements from this summit, $55 billion in commitments. But a lot of those commitments are dependent on the House of Representatives. And the Democrats don't control the House. We've had bipartisan consensus before. Will we be able to get that again? Our climate change commitments to Africa are largely dependent if President Biden can get the $11 billion in international climate change money that he has pledged. So there are a lot of wild cards. So a lot will depend on the follow-up. But also what was missing from this summit was the African-American community, the African-American business community. One thing that we have over every other nation engaging Africa, we have a common heritage. We have an active diaspora.
Again, this new year, we've got a lot of news for you, but that's it for this edition of The Hill with April Ryan. We'll see you next week with the latest news and politics. Peace.